Back in 2008, the entire global financial system came this close to just completely imploding. It wasn't just a tough recession, it was a full-on meltdown that changed our world forever. And the story of how it all went down isn't just history, it's a critical warning for all of us right now.
I mean, we're talking about institutions that seemed indestructible, right? The bedrock of our economy. And one after another, they just crumbled. The collapse was so fast, so brutal, and it spread like a virus across the entire globe.
Just think about it. Retirement accounts, college funds, life savings. All that money people work so hard for. Poof, gone. For millions of people, years of planning and security were just wiped out in a matter of hours.
So how on earth did this happen? How did everything we thought was stable just completely fall apart? That's the big question we're going to tackle in this explainer. And maybe more importantly, what can we learn from it to protect ourselves today?
Okay, so to really get the crash, you've got to understand the massive party that happened right before it. And believe me, it was a party. In the early 2000s, it felt like the American dream wasn't just possible, it was easily within reach for almost everyone.
You heard this everywhere. And here's the thing, it wasn't just some casual saying, it was like a religion. Everybody, and I mean everybody, from your neighbor to the smartest guys on Wall Street, believed that buying a house was a one-way ticket to wealth. This single, powerful belief lit the fuse on a massive economic bubble. And it all created this perfect feedback loop. Credit was ridiculously cheap, so buying a house was super easy, which shot housing prices through the roof. And as your house got more valuable, guess what? You felt richer, so you'd borrow even more against it. All the while, Wall Street was in the background, cooking up these crazy, complex financial products based on all these new loans.
But underneath all that glitter and prosperity, something really dangerous was brewing. A fuse had been lit on what some would later call a financial weapon of mass destruction. It was hiding in plain sight, and it was called the subprime mortgage.
So, what exactly is a subprime mortgage? Well, it's basically a home loan given to someone who's a really high risk, someone with poor credit who in normal times would never qualify. But in those days, bad credit score, no proof of income, hey, no problem, here's the money. Because the banks had figured out a clever and really dangerous way to just pass that risk along to someone else.
And this is how they did it. It was like a four-step recipe for total disaster. First, the banks hand out these super risky loans. Second, they bundle thousands of them together into these complicated investments called mortgage-backed securities, or MBS. Third, and this is the truly wild part, they get the official rating agencies, the supposed umpires of the financial world, to slap a big AAA rating on them, super safe. And finally, they sell these supposedly rock-solid assets to pension funds, city governments, and investors all over the world.
Yeah, they weren't safe. Not even close. They were ticking time bombs. And that was the great deception, right? These things were being sold as being as safe as gold, but they were actually stuffed full of the riskiest loans imaginable. The fuse was getting shorter and shorter, and the entire global economy was sitting right on top of it, completely unaware.
And then reality came crashing in. The music stopped. All those homeowners who couldn't really afford their houses in the first place, well, they started to miss payments. And that one little spark was all it took to set off the entire chain reaction.
And wow, did things unravel fast. It was terrifying. It started kind of small in 2007 with some missed payments, but then, bam, foreclosures skyrocketed. That core belief that housing prices only go up shattered. They started to plummet. By September 2008, the whole system just broke.
That's when Lehman Brothers, we're talking one of the biggest, most storied investment banks on the planet, went bankrupt. It just collapsed. That sent a tidal wave of pure panic across the world. The thinking was, if Lehman can fail, anybody can fail. And just like that, the credit markets froze solid. The flow of money that keeps our whole world running just stopped. And look, this is why this wasn't just some Wall Street problem. This hit Main Street hard. Nearly 9 million jobs in the US alone, just gone. Think about that number. That's not just a statistic. That's millions of families losing everything. Their jobs, their homes, their sense of security.
So now, with the world staring down the barrel of a complete economic apocalypse, governments and central banks had to make a truly impossible choice.
Here was the terrible dilemma. Option 1, use taxpayer money to save the very banks that caused this whole mess. Or Option 2, do nothing and let the entire global financial system completely disintegrate. I mean, a scenario way worse than the Great Depression. So, they chose to intervene.
And the response was absolutely massive. The Federal Reserve just started pumping trillions of dollars into the system. The government rolled out programs like TARP to buy up toxic assets and bail out the biggest banks. And yeah, these actions probably saved us from a total global meltdown, but man, were people angry. The feeling on the street was that Wall Street gets the profits, and we, the public, get stuck with the bill. Any trust left in the system? It was completely shattered.
All right, so after all that chaos, after the dust finally settled, what did we actually learn from this whole nightmare? These takeaways are so important because they are just as relevant today as they were back then. It really boils down to 5 big things. First, unchecked greed is a recipe for disaster. Second, debt is a seriously powerful tool, but man, is it dangerous. Third, and this is a big one for all of us, if you don't understand what you're investing in, just stay away. Fourth, that whole idea that assets like homes only go up? Yeah, that myth got busted, big time. And finally, transparency really matters. A system that hides risk is a system just waiting to blow up.
And that brings us to maybe the most important part of our whole discussion here. Could it happen all over again? Let's take a look at where we are right now and see if we can hear some echoes of 2008.
So, remember one of the main fuels for the 2008 fire? Too much debt? Well, take a look at this. Global debt levels today are way higher than they were right before the last crash. That fact alone should make all of us sit up and pay attention.
And yeah, the warning lights are flashing again, but maybe in different places this time. The next crisis probably won't be about subprime mortgages. Instead, we're seeing these potential bubbles inflating in areas like tech, crypto, commercial real estate, and just the staggering amount of national debt out there. There's that old saying, right? History never repeats exactly, but it rhymes. And that just feels so perfect for this moment. The names might be different, the investments might be different, but the core human behaviors driving it all, the greed, the fear, that dangerous belief that, hey, this time it's different, that stuff never changes. The patterns feel eerily familiar.
So here's the bottom line. We have the playbook. We know how this story can end because we lived through it. We can see the warning signs. The real question isn't whether another crisis can happen. It's whether we've learned enough from the last one to see the rhymes of history before it's too late. Are we paying attention this time?